Okay, let's just get right into it. If you're running an Active Directory lab, I'm willing to bet you've slammed into a Kerberos error that feels completely random and just stops you dead in your tracks. Well, today, we're not just going to fix it. We're going to make that fix stick for good, so you can get back to the work that actually matters. So picture this. You're in your lab, right? You're doing everything by the book. Your credentials are spot on, the network path is clear, and then, bam! You're stopped cold by an error that makes absolutely no sense. Trust me, you are not alone, and the real solution is way simpler than you think.
And there it is, the dreaded KRB_AP_error_skew, or clock skew too great. Now, this isn't your tool failing you. It's not a flaw in your technique. It's just a simple clock problem that's disguised itself as a big, scary security error.
And it all comes down to this number 5. Yep, that's it. In most standard Windows domains, the maximum time difference your machine can have with the server is just 5 minutes. If you're off by more than that, even by a few seconds, Kerberos authentication just says nope and fails.
So what's really happening here is that your Kali box and the domain controller have let's call it a fundamental disagreement on what time it is. And with Kerberos, being almost right is the same as being completely wrong.
So let's be super clear on the term here. Clock skew? It's literally just the difference in time between two computers. For most things, who cares? But for Kerberos, this isn't some trivial detail. It's a core part of its security design.
So why the big fuss about time? I mean, what's the deal?
Well, Kerberos uses timestamps on its tickets to shut down something called a replay attack. That's where a bad guy could snatch an old ticket and try to reuse it. By having a really strict time window, Kerberos makes sure that every ticket is fresh. From its point of view, if your machine thinks it's 7 minutes ago, that looks pretty suspicious, even if it's an honest mistake.
So what's causing this mess? It's usually not some slow, gradual drift. It's a sudden jump. And it almost always happens right after you do something totally normal, like resuming a paused VM, restoring a snapshot, or even just waking your laptop up from sleep. These everyday lab activities, they're the real culprits.
And that brings us to the big aha moment. Sure, you can sync your clock manually, and it'll work for a little while. But the real win isn't just fixing it once. The real victory is stopping whatever is silently reaching in and changing a clock back later on.
Okay, before we apply any kind of fix, we need to play detective for a minute. We're going to do a super quick triage that will tell us exactly which clock is the source of our problems.
It's a really simple 3-step check. First, look at the time inside your Kali VM. Is it right? Second, check your actual host machine, your laptop or desktop. What time does it think it is? And third, and this is the most important one, check the time on the domain controller itself. You gotta compare all three to get the real story.
And here's the conflict that's almost always happening behind the scenes. It's a time tug of war. In one corner, you've got your hypervisor's guest tools from VirtualBox or VMware, and they're trying to sync your VM's clock to your host machine's clock. But in the other corner, you have a Linux service like Crony, and it's trying to sync to a proper network time server. Your VM's clock is the rope getting pulled back and forth.
All right, so you're in the middle of a lab, you're on a roll, and you just need to get unblocked right now. Let's cover the immediate get-it-done fix.
Now this right here is the golden rule for Active Directory. The domain controller's time is the only time that matters for Kerberos. I don't care if the DC is 5 minutes off from reality. If you want a ticket, your machine needs to be 5 minutes off too. So the solution is always simple. Sync your machine to the DC. But just syncing it once, that's a band-aid. We're here for the real fix, right? So now we get to the most important part, setting up a single source of truth for time so this error just goes away forever. On most modern Linux systems, you've got two great options, Crony or Systemd time synced. Crony is super robust. It's great for flaky Wi-Fi or when you're jumping on and off a VPN. Systemd time synced is simpler because it's already built in. Honestly, they're both fantastic. The most important thing isn't which one you pick, it's that you pick one and only one.
And this is it. This is how you stop that tug of war for good. First, pick your time service and make sure it's running. Second, explicitly disable the other one so they can't fight. And third, and this is the step everyone misses, go into your VM settings and turn off time synchronization from the host. This tells your hypervisor, hey, back off, let Linux handle its own clock.
So remember, the real problem isn't that your clock is slowly drifting over a few days. That's not it at all. It's that after an event like waking from sleep, Some other service is forcibly overwriting the correct time. It is an overwrite, not a drift. That's the whole game. Okay, finally, to keep your lab environment sane and stable, let's build a really simple habit. Think of it as a 30-second pre-flight check that can literally save you hours of frustration. Before you start any Kerberos heavy work, just do this. First, know exactly which domain controller you're talking to. Second, measure the time difference in seconds. Don't just guess. And third, just double-check that you only have one time authority running and that your hypervisor sync is definitely off. Make this a reflex, and clock skew will become a solved problem. For good.
And that leaves us with a final thought, right? This clock skew thing, it isn't just a time problem, it's an environment hygiene problem. And it begs the question, what other small, frustrating issues are lurking in your lab that are just waiting for a permanent fix, freeing you up to focus on what you're actually there to learn?